Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Assalamu alaikum. It is 10:59 Central African Time, coming to you live from Salam Media Studios in Johannesburg. I am Aaliyah, your host for the mid-morning talk this morning, proudly sponsored by SANZAF, Changing Lives Through Development and Relief. SANZAF is looking to bring its successful chef school program to Johannesburg, and they need your support to make it possible. The SANZAF Chef School equips young people with accredited culinary training, workplace readiness, and real pathways into the hospitality industry. Through this program, students gain more than cooking skills. They gain confidence, dignity, and the opportunity to build a better future. Your donation can help us open doors for the next generation of chefs in Johannesburg. Donate now at www.sanzaf.org.za and be part of changing lives through skills, opportunity, and empowerment. We have got a fantastic lineup for you today. Our first guest joining us is going to be speaking on the topic of design and social impact. Our first guest is Tasneem. Assalamu alaikum, Tasneem. Welcome to the show.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for having me. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I'm very excited for our chat. Tasneem is a Cape Town-based entrepreneur and problem solver who works across food, finance, and design. She's the founder of Taiba Studio, a venture studio building ideas that help us rethink how we eat, live, and participate in the world. And she works in community engagement at the Innovative Finance Initiative. I have to say, this is one of the more interesting bios I've read of some of our guests, because there's so much that's new here for me. And I think we're all very excited to hear what you have to say today. So to start us off, question that I've been enjoying asking our guests is, what are you reading at the moment, and is there any writing or writer that currently intrigues you?
Yeah, great to be here. I'm not currently reading this at the moment, but I want to give a shout out to something I always come back to, and it's a book called The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. And her big idea is that gatherings kind of need a real specific purpose and not just a reason that's stated or like implicitly. So that's kind of how I approach creating gatherings. I want people at my gatherings to connect at a much deeper level and feel like they are there for a shared purpose. And so, yeah, The Art of Gathering, Priya Parker, that's something I keep coming back to.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I've not read the book, but I'll definitely put it on my list. I think, speaking about gathering, there are so many gatherings that happen around food specifically. And I know that food is something that has been central to a lot of different things that you have done over the years. So could you maybe talk us through, where did your journey start in food and with food, and where has it taken you now?
Yeah, I always love that question, because I think people, maybe when I tell my story, people don't understand how I got from point A to point B, because I started as a dietitian in community healthcare, and now I'm working in finance and entrepreneurship. But I promise there's a thread, which is that I worked in Soweto as a very young community service dietitian, and was very, very exposed to the realities of the South African food system there. So people were getting sick not because of their choice, but because of how the system and the food system and agriculture and laws behind that are set up. And so that got me really thinking through what are the layers behind this. And that's when I moved to the Western Cape to pursue a postgraduate study in sustainable development. And my focus was there on food security and food entrepreneurship, and how social entrepreneurship within people's own communities can have a meaningful impact on the food and the quality of food that they eat and their food security. And then that took me down a path of supporting entrepreneurs across the food value chain, and also at various economic levels, to understand how to make better change in their community through entrepreneurship, and through more specifically food and social entrepreneurship. And then that kind of led me to an understanding that if the systems are designed for a certain outcome, which is that, people are sick, we're not necessarily consuming the foods that can support our thriving, then we need to think about redesigning that entire system. And so that also is a philosophy of mine, where I bring in design thinking into my work around how do we design better systems for the problems that we have.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. I think what's really important is that you've mentioned food as being, sort of central to public health, which is something that we don't think about enough. Public health is so much larger than just the healthcare system. And of course, you mentioned the food system, and we saw our Mayor Mamdani in New York just a few days ago introduce, the 4 hours of free babysitting. And a lot of people were commenting and saying that this is a public health decision, because you have, parents whose wellness is being taken care of. So I think for all the young people out there who are listening to us and who are trying to begin careers or to carve their way through their career, I think it's very important to think of all the different things that we still have the capacity to do in South Africa, and to think of all these different paths that we can take. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what people like you and others, could bring to our society. You mentioned that you work a lot with design thinking, and I guess you are a professional problem solver in that sense. And so could you maybe speak us through what are the principles and processes of design thinking for those of us who don't know?
I love that title, professional problem solver. I feel like I've made it. So I am also, I'm affiliated with the UCT School of Design Thinking, and there I work as a coach part-time to coach teams through this problem-solving methodology known as design thinking. It's a really amazing space, and everyone should definitely visit the D School at UCT as well. And essentially what this is it's a methodology that's taken from the design world and now being applied to other industries across the board. And it helps you understand that if a person is engaging with a product or a service or anything like that, which a lot of our businesses are doing, then we need to actually get to the core of what exactly the problem is that we're solving for, instead of making huge assumptions about what we're trying to solve. And so design thinking really helps. It takes you, before you solutionize anything, you have to really sit with getting deeper into the layers of asking, why is this problem a problem? And then pinpointing the core needs of that user. And then it also really emphasizes this testing and prototyping and reiterating on your prototype. So your first kind of product you're going to develop is not necessarily going to be perfect, but we always say done is better than perfect, because then you have something to be able to test your assumptions with the users and then come back and say, okay, this didn't work. Why didn't it work? How can I make it better? And I think there is, it helps you to not invest too much upfront into a solution that might not actually be the solution that the user needs, or has a problem that aligns. So it encourages learning fast and testing small, and it has this bias towards action over being perfect, which I really love, and it's a lesson to me first as a recovering perfectionist, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I could see now that you've explained it, how it can be applicable to so many real problems, and how you really are taking that methodology and testing it on the ground, which I think is important, because I think there's a lot that happens theoretically, but what I like about it is it's sort of giving you practical solutions, or at least trying to create a practical solution. Yeah, so I mean, design thinking, we've spoken about it in sort of like this abstract sense, but what does it mean for South Africa, for solving problems in South Africa? What value can it have for the South African context?
So one of the big things is that because prototyping small doesn't require a huge budget, in South Africa, where not a lot of people, not a lot of entrepreneurs who are starting out their journey are necessarily equipped with all the tools and all the funding at their disposal. And so something like even just before you build an app, before you put all the resources into building an app, you build maybe a paper version of that app, and you take your potential user through that journey of how they would experience that app. And then you can ask them the sort of questions that would lead you to getting feedback that could help you refine that. So in the context of South Africa, I would say starting small, low budget is one of the really important ways that design thinking is super relevant. And then also there are a lot of problems in South Africa and Africa that are quite unique to that particular context. So societies operate in their own ways that are different from European or Asian or American societies. And so we can't necessarily take solutions from contexts that are not ours and just plug and play them. We need to make them very context based. So with design thinking, it really emphasizes that inquiry of like, what is this context and what is this user needing specifically? And it might be different from somewhere else in the world. And so, for instance, if your society is not as digitally advanced as another society, then taking the model of like some kind of digital banking app is not going to work, one for one. So getting into an understanding of what that society needs, and South Africa being also very unique economic situation where we're a growing economy, but also there's a lot of injustice and a lot of inequity. That's a unique kind of problem, and it has yes, the society's kind of
take ads at 11:15.
I suppose the patterns are unique. So yeah.
I think that's really important that you bring that up, because I've always thought we need South African solutions to South African problems, but I didn't really know how to articulate it. So thank you so much for giving us, the language to navigate that. And again, it goes back to what you were saying earlier, that you have to very clearly identify the problem, and also like the context of the problem is really important. We're going to get into, after the break, we'll speak a little bit more about your new venture and your new project. But before we do that, I just want to ask, is there anything else that you've built or created that you were really proud of? Because you've done a lot of things. If anyone knows Tasneem, she has created a whole bunch of marvelous things. So yeah, is there anything else that you were really proud of or that you would like to share?
There's too many to think of, so I'm drawing a blank. We'll talk about it after.
Okay, no stress. Okay, so then I think, yeah, before the break, we can just speak about your new venture, which is Taipei Studio. So you can give us a little summary of it, and then when we come back from the break, we'll talk about it in depth.
Cool. Very briefly, what I'm trying to do with Teba Studio is there's a lot of ideas and a lot of very interesting ventures that could work to solve lots of problems, but they require testing, and testing takes time and it takes a lot of resources. And so the idea with Teba Studio is that let's use this design thinking methodology to test ideas to solving problems within this narrow industry of food and the other things I'm passionate about, like gathering and the hospitality industry and so forth.
Okay,
and
we're
we
super
can talk a
excited
lot more about that.
to dive deeper into that after the break. Please stay with us, and see you after the break.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists, with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities, conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities. Your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
Hey Gulam.
Yeah?
Did I return your lawnmower last month?
No, bhai, you didn't.
Oh no. Now what'll I do? I wanted to borrow it again, man.
With Randry Jewelers, you won't have to borrow or lend because the prices are so well trimmed on all gold and diamond jewelry. Alternatively, we could remake your old jewelry into a brilliant new design. Visit Randry Jewelers at 151 Stevens Lamini Road, Musgrave, Durban. Randry Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
Gaza needs your support more than ever. Homes have been shattered and families have lost everything. With your support, our teams are delivering clean water tankers, feeding the hungry, and assisting orphans who have no one left. Let us give Gaza whatever help we can. African Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
Are you banking with convenience, transparency, and flexibility? With Al Barakah Bank's transactional banking account, you can enjoy convenient everyday banking designed around your needs. Benefit from zero fees on point-of-sale transactions and manage your banking easily through Al Barakah's secure mobile banking app and internet banking platform. From everyday payments to managing your personal or business banking, Al Barakah makes banking simple, transparent, and convenient. Visit albarakah.co.za to learn more. Al Barakah, your partner bank. Al Barakah Bank Limited is an authorized financial services and credit provider.
Right now, in some of the most devastated parts of our world,
Last ad.
many of our hearts, Doctors Without Borders is delivering emergency medical care where no one else will. Your donation gives a child surgery, a family clean water, a community a fighting chance against disease. This is an opportunity to make your giving count where it's needed most. Visit msf.org.za/sadaqah, that's SADAQAH, and donate today. Doctors Without Borders, we go there.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Thank you for staying with us. It is 11:18 Central African Time. I am your host, Aaliyah, for the mid-morning talk. And we have with us Tasneem Jhetam, who we've been speaking all things design thinking, food, and problem solving, very importantly. Just before the break, Tasneem was speaking about her new venture, Teba Studio, which she is the founder of. It is a venture studio building ideas to help us rethink how we eat, live, and participate in the world. So coming back to that now, I think that there were sort of different ways for different actors to get involved with the studio. So could you maybe talk us through that? Because there may be some listeners who are interested.
Yeah. The thing with being someone who has lots and lots of ideas, is that one at some point needs to contain those ideas. And so that's where Teba Studio sort of began, which is I need to contain and figure out how to move some of these ideas forward. And so Teba Studio really has two main arms at the moment. And one of them is rethinking how we eat. So rethinking the food system, the food value chain, and that we do through our food innovation lab. We have a lot of fun here, prototyping and testing new consumer products that hopefully are better for us, better for the planet, and just better in general. Because, what we eat, thinking about what we eat is not just about what the food is and how it lands on our plate, but the entire system. How were the farmers paid? How were the workers in that business treated? And I could go on. And so that's the one part of it, which is the Food Innovation Lab. So anyone interested in that, there's a few pathways for people to on the website to access. And then the other one is thinking about how we gather, how we connect to each other, how we commune. And that part of the studio is called Always Room, and it is a hospitality brand built on this idea that very South African, a celebration of South African hospitality, which is like, there's always room for one more. We can always shift up. And we host a supper club, so it's an intimate dining series. And then we also try to connect people who are planning the next event. So if they're offering something or if they're asking for a service, we aim to connect people together. And then we also have an online store for considered items or gathering well. So those are the two main arms of it. And then we're also doing a lot of research around regenerative agriculture, climate smart ingredients, and testing new business models. So if you are someone who is a small business owner, specifically in the food space, and you're building a new product or wanting to grow your audience, there's a pathway for you on Teba Studio, where we support with things like product development and sourcing. For students, we offer mentorship and coaching, and also an invitation to come spend time with us in the lab and work on interesting food innovations. If you have some funds and you're a funder and would like to put some funds towards an innovative project, we can also talk about that. As I mentioned, if you're planning your next event, then the Always Room arm has a lot of offerings for people who are working in the event space, or also planning their next gathering. We also have an ecosystem of people in our network doing very interesting charitable work. So if you'd like to donate to a worthy cause in food, agriculture, or clean water, things like that, we have pathways for that. And if you'd just like to know more about what Teba Studio is doing, you can also subscribe to our newsletter as well. So those are the ways, and yeah, the website is tayba.africa, tayba.africa.
Thank you. I was going to ask you to please share that. As a small business owner myself, I'm very intrigued by your studio, and we might be one of the first people who want to join.
Very exciting.
Yeah. So I think what's really interesting is you mentioned like all these arms, and you also spoke about this idea of like gathering right at the beginning of our interview, and it's so beautiful to me that it is about gathering all of these people. It's about creating opportunities for different people. There's enough space for everyone at the table. Everyone has something that they can contribute, and I really like that that's bringing that all together. So really, all the best, and super excited to see where this goes. And I have no doubt that it will be very impactful, especially for a lot of small businesses. The main thesis of Teba Studio is we can make consumer products better without asking anyone to try harder. Would you be able to walk us through how do you actually apply that in life or in a product?
Yeah, sure. So something that I've kind of really been spending a lot of time researching at the moment is indigenous grains, so indigenous and local South African and African grains, and there are a lot more kind of staple grains that we can eat that moves beyond corn and wheat and rice. And so we have things like millet and sorghum that we've always been eating on this continent, and also in Asia, they eat these grains a lot. They are very healthy for us. They contribute to the diversity in our diets. They are climate smart, so which means that they can grow better in drought circumstances than, for instance, other grains can. And the list goes on around why it's important to introduce a diversity of food into our diets. And those are almost like, I want to say, they're unsung heroes of the food system, and they're not as common, and they're not as well funded as other grains are. And so initially I had thought maybe if people knew about it more, it would encourage them to eat more of these grains. And like, to an extent, yes, the consumers do respond to information, but also I've been thinking more around, like, how do you get people to consume these products without having to do all that work of becoming informed and educated? So how can they just be naturally in our food system and form part of a healthy mix of our food system? So that's why I've been thinking about, like, innovative ways to incorporate this into food products. And the other day we added some sorghum flour to a biscuit recipe. And we were trying to make like tennis biscuits, but they ended up being their own thing, and they were actually really delicious, and they were made of sorghum flour. And I tested them with some people, and they really liked them. And it also reminded a lot of people, it reminded them of home, because, like I say, we have been consuming these products, and lots of us grew up eating things like maltabella, which is a sorghum grain cereal. So we know it, and it's in our memory, and it's in our like traditions and heritage foods, but it's not as well known. And so how do we bridge that gap? So that's something I'm testing with new food products using these indigenous grains.
Oh, that's amazing and so important, because again, it's about finding the South African solutions to South African problems. And in an increasingly globalized world, it's very easy to just sort of resort to, okay, it's easy to just get this from somewhere and that from somewhere, whether we're importing products or importing knowledge or importing solutions. I think it's important that we, sort of ground ourselves and recenter ourselves here and think about where we are before doing that, because there are so many options and so many opportunities. And I'm really happy that through your work and through the studio, you addressing these things, and hopefully we can see more sustainable products in the market through ventures like these. And so, I'm really sad our interview is coming to an end. But just to wrap up, I think I want to ask you, as someone whose passion is design and social impact, what does Women's Day or Women's Month mean to you?
Women's Month to me means a lot of things. I think I would say mostly it's a celebration of women's participation in leadership in the economy, and how that needs to be given more room, because women make up half of society. And so we need to get to a space where all our ideas are heard and everyone is given an opportunity to be in a leadership position and to have agency over their own lives and to participate in the ways they want to. And And so that's, for me, when I think about why I'm able to do the things I do as a woman, it's because I've been trusted and resourced and, encouraged. And I think that we all deserve that.
100%. I think, again, coming back to resources, like who has a share of the resources is generally a very big question in South Africa. And I think making sure that there's a balance of resources, a balance of power is really our struggle in this country. And also thank you so much, Tasneem, for sharing your time with us today. Thank you for this really insightful conversation. I learned so much. And I couldn't help thinking when you shared the name of your studio, which I assume also is partly where the inspiration comes from, is the verse in the Quran, Kulu min rizqin tayyibah, eat from what we have provided for you that is good. And it's not just about halal, it's about going beyond that and thinking about whether what we're consuming is good for us, good for the environment, good for people in general. So thank you so much for all of these reminders and all the best with everything. We are very excited to see this thrive and prosper. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks so much for having me. Bye.
And listeners, please stay with us. We will be back after the break with another very insightful speaker. Thank you.
We will